All right, hello. Welcome back. Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this outside with sunglasses on. So for the good folks on youtube.com/Chase Thomas Podcast, they get a different kind of venue here on this late Friday here, the dusk edition here on the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I am joined by fellow Atlanta sports guy, Garrett Chapman of 99 The Game and 247 Sports. Garrett, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. Not as good as you. Chilling outside, hanging out, taking in the sunshine, getting some vitamin D.
Dude, I couldn't even find a table at this park. Like, I'm on a...
Is it just sitting in your lap right now?
Yes, it's sitting in my lap. I'm holding the microphone up with one hand, looking at you in the other. Don't ever think that I don't put in the work.
This is commitment.
This is commitment right here, folks, is being like, I'm not dealing with traffic and everything else. I'm diving in. I have my road gear just in case,
That's impressive. I'm impressed. Color me impressed, man. This is awesome.
Well, it's a terrible angle because this camera is awful.
Not your most flattering angle, I mean, I'm not used to seeing you without a hat.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I'm looking a little white.
You are a little white. You're used to having your long sleeves on, man. Make sure you don't get sunburned.
Well, I think it's also careful. Just like it's like the Tennessee logo. I got the Tennessee orange. It kind of washes me out a little bit. But, as a redhead, you know all about this, Garrett Chapman. You all about being careful with your...
in there. It's very, very brown. Very brown.
Is that what it is? Well, Garrett Chapman, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, man.
Vineyard Vines is up there in Martha's Vineyard over the weekend, so hopefully Max has a good time there. But we have some Atlanta stuff to talk about, and the first thing I want to ask you, are you worried about the current state of the Braves pitching staff and bullpen, and do you see it kind of hurting the Braves as we get into the summer months, because they do, I believe, as it stands right now, the biggest lead of any division leader in Major League Baseball right now? Or do you think it's just something that will settle and it's really a nothing burger at the moment?
I'm going to fall somewhere in the middle on those, because it is certainly not a nothing burger. It's something that has cost them baseball games already this year. If the bullpen is it's pretty average right now. And I think it's kind of blown out of proportion a little bit just because this is a first place team, and the rest of the team and the rest of this roster is so good that you have an average unit, and all of a sudden it becomes the sky is falling or whatever. AJ Minter has not been good. I think that's been quite obvious. Joe Jimenez has not been the guy they've traded for. Nick Anderson hasn't been super awesome. Colin McHugh has been above average, I would say. And then Rafael Iglesias has not been healthy outside of the last couple of weeks. And I think what you said was probably kind of accurate. Just give it some time. It'll settle in. I think the biggest thing is Minter needs to kind of settle down a little bit. His last two outings, he's been shelled, really. Granted, those are against two very potent lineups, but at the end of the day, it's like you got to be effective and you have to be consistent. I don't think that this unit that it doesn't have that consistency, but it's also been thrust to the front of our thought process, I guess, because of all these bullpen games that we've been having due to the injuries that we've had with the starting rotation. So the pressure has really, really ramped up on them, but it's still early in the season. I'm not sitting here hitting the panic button on anything. Will this be a spot that Alex Anthopoulos likely adds something to at the trade deadline? Absolutely. Are we there yet? Far from it. Because I think we still have some guys in this bullpen who are consistent, but there are some injuries. And with injuries, you just have to weather the storm. And look, the team's doing just fine right now, all things considered. I mean, that series up in Toronto is extremely forgetful. They've been kind of hit or miss at times. The Dodgers series, the first two games, they kind of blew through some hit pitching advantages with the starting pitching. And the bullpen was to blame for a lot of that. So I think this is just something they'll have to get through. And once they get through it, we'll be fine.
I wonder what this team looks like without Ronald Acuna playing at an MVP level right now, though. Like, that's something that is just, he is so much head and shoulders better than the rest of this lineup and doing so much to keep the Braves afloat. I mean, him and Sean Murphy, we should mention Sean Murphy too, who has just been a home run trade to this point in the season. But with everybody else banged up, Ronald Acuna has been the just most consistent catalyst here, and just his stats are bonkers. I think right now you'd have to put him as your NL MVP favorite, right?
Oh, no question. Like, I don't think it's even remotely close right now. I think the second place one is Sean Murphy. Ronald Acuna runs away with it too. So he might be the first player ever to go for a 40-60. I think that was the number.
Yeah.
That's what he's on pace for. He's already has 22 stolen bases. He is halfway through to the 40 stolen base, like that little threshold or whatever. And we're not even through the month of May. Like, this dude, if he continues at this pace, he's out of his mind. And the power's coming back tenfold. He's hitting the cover off of the baseball. I mean, he's been playing very good ball, and his defense has left a little bit to be desired. But at the end of the day, as he's playing right field, I'm asking him to throw people out at the plate with that beautiful arm of his, and then I want him to hit home runs and get on base. Like, we saw that the other day, but I think we had 5 consecutive games, which is the tied for the most consecutive games since like 2017 or something, with a run in the first inning.
Mm-hmm.
He's about as potent as it gets at the top of a lineup, and he's likely the scariest person in baseball right now, especially when he gets hot. And I don't even think we've seen him at like the white hot level that he's capable of hitting at.
Yeah, I think so. What happened in the Dodgers series? Are you concerned with how that series went in any way? What was your biggest takeaway from it?
Just situational hitting. I mean, we saw it a little bit at the very end of that game. They got guys on base. Austin Riley hits a beautiful double, and then Travis d'Arnaud comes up, has a professional at bat, and then Ozzie Albies hits him home with a sac fly. I mean, it's just when they just didn't do that in games 1 and 2, and the bats went cold, and it happens. It's a long season, and these things it's just the run of the mill sort of stuff. The starting pitching left a little bit to be desired, I will say, probably to say the least. But anytime you only score 1 run, I'm not expecting to win that baseball game. And this lineup, I don't care who you're playing, especially if you're playing a rookie, you need to be shelling out a little bit more on the offensive side. Give your pitchers something to work with. And they just didn't do that very effectively. And you saw what happened as a result. That's a good baseball club that they were playing. That's a really good ball club they were playing.
Do you want the standing ovations for Freddie Freeman to stop?
They've stopped. I think they're stopped. I think they're done now.
Okay.
I think if they're not coming back to Atlanta, I don't think. So he got it in game 1 and 2. I'm fine with it in game 1. Cool. He did a lot for this franchise. I love that. Game 2, I'm like, all right, that's enough. Game 3, it didn't happen. So
yeah,
if it happened in game 3, I would be probably tweeting about it, a little annoyed. Game 2, I can stomach it, which is like, it's fine. It was kind of scattered throughout the crowd. I understood it completely last year. I completely understood it last year. This year, not so much. If they do it again, if he comes in the playoffs, sorry, no, not happening. Better not happen. But the Braves love the fan favorites here in Atlanta. They always love them. And I mean, if they want to cheer somebody on like that, I'll power to them.
Are you Team Azuna or Team Will Smith on the batting stance and the bat follow through swing incident? Because
I was up in the press box. So I was taking pictures, like trying to see if it was going to get him. I took a video every single swing except for the one where he actually hit the home run and hit him in the back, which is a little frustrating, seeing as I was ready for it until I wasn't.
Yeah,
and it always seems to work that way. But look, you're the batter. He was inside of the box, especially this most recent one that I can attest to, that I was sitting there staring at him. I was watching it happen. It's the catcher's job to get out of the way, not vice versa. He's got a long swing, and he's in the batter's box. And if as long as he's in the batter's box, he's maintaining the rules of the game. I can't really fault him for anything. So I don't know what we would say about it. It's a little dramatic. Braves lost. Who cares? So as far as I care, it's not that big of a deal. It kind of got blown out of proportion because it's the Dodgers and the Braves.
Well, I also just think it's happened for multiple years. Like, I think there was another video of him getting plunked in the head where it's just it's clearly something that's been stewing. I think Ozuna has to have a better understanding that he's already just like every Braves fan and just like he's barely clinging to a roster spot on the best team in the NL. And these are
Not
little things
anymore.
where
No,
it's like,
he's firmly on the team now.
well, hold on. We still have a full summer to go here. Like we have a
Oof.
while before I'm ready to just be like, all right, he's safe, he's good to go. For the long haul. But I mean, it's not like there's a lot of better options sitting there behind him, whether that's Hilliard or whoever. But I don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, if I'm Will Smith, I'd be annoyed too. Like I keep getting hit. This is not like a common thing. It's not like Will Smith is complaining about other dudes hitting him in the head. This is clearly like Ozuna thing. So it's like the response would be like, I'll work on it, or I'll try to like. You have to at least acknowledge that there is something to it, because this is not a problem for any other batter in baseball right now. No other batter is having this problem with hitting the catcher in the head and his follow through. This is a unique Marcell Ozuna problem.
Well, or maybe it's Will Smith standing a little too close. He's dropping down a little bit too close to the batter's box.
You're such a homer. I love this.
Not really. I mean, it's not even that part.
Homer.
I don't care. Like, it's fine. I'd get annoyed too if I was Will Smith. I'd get annoyed. I got popped with a bat. It hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
But as far as Marcell Ozuna goes, no, I think he's kind of played his way onto the team because he showed how valuable he can be. Like, as much as you like him or dislike him off of the field, which I'm not going to, I've said on this podcast how much I'm not really a fan of his. Like, he's not a player who, I'm a big jersey guy. I love wearing jerseys of the teams and players that I love. He's not a guy who I'm going to buy his jersey. But at the end of the day, it's like, I said it on the airwaves at 92.9. I said he should be cut from the team. I'm changing course. No, it's like he showed how valuable he can be to this team. I mean, just in the last 28 days or so, I mean, he's had 18 games. He's slashing, like he has like a 343 batting average. He was batting, his batting average was so bad, it was not enough to get a DUI like he got last August. It was below the legal drinking limit. And he's all the way up 222. He's past Mendoza. He's far past the Mendoza line. He's got an OPS of like 1-2 or 1-1-6-7 or something like that in his last 28 days. He's been a very good baseball player. He hasn't even just been like a competent player. He's been like almost all-star level over the last month. I mean, and that's just a stark contrast. And if that's what we're expecting, I'm assuming for the rest of the season, then he's playing at the level of his contract would suggest. He needs to do more than just hit home runs. And right now he's doing that. And as long as he's doing that, then I fine. Keep him on the roster. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine for right now. But
yeah,
let's just
right
give me. There's just a lot of plate appearances to go for Marcell Ozuna to completely fall off a cliff.
Yeah, he's Katy Perry, man. He's hot and he's cold.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see if you'd be more nervous about him peaking now, because it's like I don't think he plays like this for.
No, he needed to peak now. He needed it. Okay. He needed to do that for his sake, even to be on this roster. But the thing is, we've seen the valleys, and I just only hope that the valley is not as low as it was in April. April, he had 7 hits. This month, he has 8 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
So the valley can't get any lower, can it? I really hope not. That'd be really bad, because if this is only a flash in the pan, he's going to be here and he's going to be hitting in the month of June and the month of July. And then if he bottoms out in August, you're kind of stuck with him. And I really don't know what to do at that point.
Speaking of guys you're stuck with, the Braves are trying to just be stuck with anyone in that number 5 spot. Like, you got Bryce Elder, who I think hopefully will stick around, and this is not a fluke to this point, because they've needed him far more than I think you or I would have predicted before the year, that like Bryce Elder is like
bingo card.
Just keeping this rotation afloat. But Fried, I'm still probably more optimistic. My gut tells me Kyle Wright's not around all year, that's just going to get shut some with the shoulder. I'm more concerned about the shoulder than Fried. It seems more fluky for Fried, and that he'll be back sooner rather than later, even maybe ahead of schedule. The Kyle Wright stuff scares me. So with all that being said, you look at the kid, AJ, I'm just going to call him AJ Schaefer, because whenever I see him in the tats on the arm, I'm like, oh, we got our Jordan Schaefer of the starting rotation. I didn't know I'd ever need another Jordan Schaefer, but it's time. It's time to get the gang back together. That being said, Dylan Dodd didn't work out. Jared Schuster, still, and then Michael Soroka, who has just kind of been forgotten about to this point. Good starts in Gwinnett. It looks like he may be back sooner rather than later. Are you still a believer in Soroka at this point,
Yeah.
Garrett? And where does he fit with this team this year?
All right, so rolling through. So Bryce Elder, I think, has been just a marvelous since he just had a sensational start to the season. And I mean, it's funny how the Braves just keep seeming to find guys like this. So the past, at least since 20, well, really, every year it seems like they've had some. 2018, they had Soroka, who kind of came out of nowhere, just being a young stud. And then 2019, I don't even know who had been in 2019, but 2020, what was it then? It was that was Ian Anderson. 2021, 2022 is Spencer Strider, and then oh man, I'm blanking right now, but you get the point. Like, it just seems like there's always this youthful, incredible player who just sort of comes out of nowhere when you're not really expecting him to come in and be as consistent as he is. And Bryce Elder's third in Major League Baseball in ERA among qualified starts. He's first in the National League. I don't think anybody was expecting that right now. He's been fantastic, especially considering the fact that he doesn't really have great stuff necessarily, at least by this generation standards, but he's a placement pitcher. He gets ground balls, but the ground balls go right to a defender, and it works, and it's been working. I don't necessarily expect it to stay at this level, but as long as he keeps riding that wave, that mentality is so strong with him. I mean, you saw he was going up against the Dodgers on Thursday, or I guess Wednesday, and he loads up. He gets runners on first and second, no outs, and then he gets out of the inning with unscathed. Like, that's veteran mentality. Like, where it's like he just stays even keeled, and I can't say enough good things about that. And Dylan Dodd, he had the kind of a shaky start yesterday, albeit again against a very good lineup. But he's going to be making another start against Oakland. He hasn't been optioned yet. I just saw the reports that he's still in the clubhouse. So if he's still in the clubhouse, that means he's going to be making a start against Oakland on the road trip. So expect him to do that. Jared Schuster, I don't really know much about Jared Schuster, really. I haven't really been following him too terribly closely, if I'm being completely honest, because I think the other guy you mentioned, Michael Soroka, is going to be the other guy who's the next call-up if we need him to. Because Soroka's biggest thing to this point in the season, at least in AAA, is his pitch count. He's had one game where he exceeds 6 innings, I believe. He just did it again, his last start out there. I think it was on Wednesday or so, maybe a Tuesday night. He goes up and he pitched 95 pitches. I think he allowed 1 run or something like that. It was a great game. He looked to be in complete control. He was steady, and something that I expect him to be making that start here in Atlanta very soon. And I mean, could you think of a better roster for him to go up against than the Oakland Athletics in his first Major League Baseball start since 2021 or 2020, I guess, in the COVID shortened season? There's no better lineup for him to go up against. So why not call him up now? He's on target. He'll hit it. Is that or Smith Shawver or yes, Shawver? Yeah, I always say his name. I always mess his name up.
Oh yeah,
fast tracking. Yeah. I'm not expecting anytime soon, but I've been wrong before because I didn't think Spencer Strider was going to get put as a starter, and then I didn't think Michael Harris was going to be called up anytime soon. So I was wrong twice. I was over 2 last year, so I'll just go ahead and say it. Smith Shawver's not getting the call up anytime soon, and I'll be completely wrong, and he's going to end up winning Rookie of the Year or something like that. So
that's what we want. Is like you need to doubt it. Like when you doubt it, like that's when you're more likely.
That's it, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. Just keep doubting it. It'll be fine. And that's what I'm going to do with Smith Shawver too, because he's only made like 25 starts or something in his professional career. He was just in high A, and then he gets bolted all the way up to AAA in Gwinnett, and it's just like, all right, man, let's see how it goes.
A lot of Mike Fultonevich energy from him, it seems like.
Yeah. Which Fulte had some great stuff too. It's just this thing, it just never really seemed to matriculate. And that's, again, I'll say it again, Bryce Elder has got that stuff, man. It, like that right up here. Where he doesn't have that pitching stuff, he definitely has that mentality. And I think that's just grit. So valuable. He got that dog, man. He got that dog.
I don't know if he's got that dog in him. I think Spencer Strider's got that dog
Spencer Strider is
I think
the
Bryce
dog.
Elder. Yeah.
Spencer Strider is the dog. Like that's it.
Garrett, does DeAndre Hopkins make sense for the Falcons? Because my Galaxy brain is still friend of the pod, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, did a did a show this week on obviously the Falcons, but he mentioned Corey Davis and Hunter Renfrow as his two top targets. Is like he was going back to the Michael Jenkins, Julio Jones, or Michael Jenkins and Roddy White era for that matter. And then they eventually went from Roddy White to Julio Jones, obviously back in the day. But one of the things that Arthur Smith really utilized and what the Falcons do not have anymore because of Limade Zaccheaus is gone is they don't really have that third down go-to guy, the underneath guy, the guy who's going to keep the chains moving. Scotty Miller is just not proven enough to really be that guy. And there's just, you look at this roster right now and you don't really see him. And Corey Davis, for whatever reason, didn't work out based on where he was drafted, but still in the league, still a solid pro. Like, that makes more sense. Or Hunter Renfrow is obviously the dream one, but I don't think the Raiders are going to move on from him anytime soon. So it's like that kind of player, but then you see all Falcons fans like D-Hop. It's like, well, the Falcons already really have a number one in Drake London.
They're not.
I mean,
they're not signing
Drake London,
They're not
Wait,
signing
say it
it
again?
up.
Well, no, it's not just that they're not signing it, but I don't think they need that kind of guy. Like, I don't think they need that kind of receiver. I think they need that underneath sure thing to make things easier for Desmond Ridder. And I don't know if that ends up being Corey Davis. Maybe it does, but I don't think D-Hop is needed. I think Kyle Pitts needs to be healthy. I think Drake London showed enough last year, and I think the target, and with Matt Collins as well, I don't think they need one other big guy, like just a big name, go get it downfield kind of guy. I just don't think this offense really needs that right now. I think they need that Hunter Renfrow, Corey Davis type. But I don't know if they'll add that, but does D-Hop move the needle at all for you? Would you at least explore it if you're Atlanta?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd explore it. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, even if he's on the other side of the hill, he's still one of the best players in the NFL as far as the wide receiver position goes. And do I think that the Falcons are going to sign him? No. If they signed him, I would be shocked is probably not a strong enough term. Like, I would be very, very surprised. But I think you kind of hit it. They don't need him. I mean, he's not going to move the needle too much. You don't really need an X receiver. Because you got that in Drake London. And on top of that, you've got Kyle Pitts, who's coming back, who's going to eat up a lot of those carries. You have Bijan Robinson, who I think is actually going to fulfill that role that you were talking about, that Hunter Renfrow type role where he's going to play underneath.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to be. He's going to come in on third down. He's going to be playing all three downs. It's going to be him or Cordero Patterson. I had some buddies who were up at Flowery Branch for OTAs. They already have him lined up at wide receiver. That's where he's been lined up all week. And he's going to do that. He's going to be in that position. So no, I don't think that they're going to even approach it, because he's going to want $15 million, $20 million right now. They're not signing him for that. Like, it's not happening. And
I wonder what his value is, though. The fact that he just got cut pre-June 1st, like, there's something else there. Like, I don't know. Maybe D-Hop still has something left in the tank. Maybe he's still going to be fine and he'll go up on the Eagles or something. But it does kind of raise an eyebrow that the Cardinals did this and ate that whole, $20-something million to cut him now. It's just very strange.
Does it raise your other eyebrow that the Texans did the exact same thing?
Oh.
Like, why are we talking? They wanted a first-round pick for D-Hop. The Texans didn't even get a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Everyone talked about how they undersold. They got David Johnson in like a third-round pick or something, a second-round pick. I don't know. They got like a 30-year-old running back. Like, is there something up with D-Hop that we should know about? Like, that's really where my head goes when this is the second time that's happened. He's a really talented player, but the team
turns 31 this year.
Has he really made tremendous impacts on his team outside of the fact, or outside of like past his age 27 season?
Yeah,
I mean, he was fantastic when he was with Deshaun Watson in Houston, but then after Watson left, I mean, he kind of fell off a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it was just age. Maybe it was just lack of good quarterback play. I'm not going to lay that at his feet necessarily, but he's a great wide receiver. He's one of the best in the NFL. I think he'll have plenty of suitors, a ton of people, and I don't see the Falcons getting into that bidding war.
No, I don't either.
But I like your Hunter Renfrow idea. I love a Hunter Renfrow. He's one of those very underrated wide receivers.
Yeah. I would like a Hunter Renfrow on this team, but maybe they add him this summer. Maybe they go into trade. Maybe it's a deadline type deal for them. Last thing here, early Hawks draft pick thoughts. So we know where they're going to be at the bottom of the second round here, Garrett. Who could make sense for you? Who do you like? Julian Phillips is obviously one you take a flyer on if you're the Atlanta Hawks. That length and potential there. Obviously a rocky, not to pardon the pun here, in Knoxville for Julian Phillips, but a lot of talent, long. He's someone you take a flyer on late in the second round, where it's like if he puts it together, he can figure some stuff out offensively and just not do the Tony Snell thing where he's just getting cardio for a lot of games. Like, hey, you could never have too many long, versatile wings who might pop. Like, you could just never have too many of those guys. And he could also spend some time with the College Park Skyhawks for a season or two. So that's also a possibility as he gets ready, because it's going to be a crowded wing room and wing rotation to begin with. You don't have to tell Jalen Johnson that to this point. But what do you think about that late second round, the middle of the first? Do you think they should keep the pick? Now that you've seen everything, what do you think the Hawks should do, and who have you already done some YouTube clip watching on?
I know Max is our NBA draft guy. He's the dude who's really going to dive in really deep on this. I've looked at Cason Wallace from Kentucky. He's somebody who could be kind of interesting. Just looking at Kentucky guards in the NBA and how they've worked out, as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, Maxey, Darren Fox. Like, am I saying he's going to be one of those guys? No, but they've got a long history of producing great guard play, and that's kind of goes back to what Calipari does. I mean, it's his specialty, so taking a Kentucky guard wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But ultimately, I'm looking for somebody who can consistently shoot three. If we're going to get some guard or a forward or someone who can, I need a 3-point shooter, man. We need some range. We've been lacking that so badly. When Bogey kind of got it going later in the season, you saw the team was much better. When Trey is shooting effectively from three, this team is much better. You need a killer from three. And I think where the Hawks are, you're going to find specialists. You're not going to find a real stud necessarily. Occasionally you will, but for the most part, I need somebody who's going to come in and do something effective. And that effective thing, hopefully, is shooting the three.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with this, because they're already really crowded. And now I'm thinking about it, like, who was the last Kentucky player the Hawks drafted? Who would that have been? Do you know off the top of your head? Because nobody rings a bell. They have not really drafted any Kentucky guys.
Not
They've
really.
never really gone down that rabbit hole.
Most of the Kentucky dudes have been gone, or they were off the board for the most part. When they had the really powerful years, like back in the mid 2010s, the Hawks were in the playoffs. They're always
Did the Hawks draft Randolph Morris?
Maybe in the second round or something like that. Was that one?
Right?
That wasn't
like,
the first round pick.
Was he a Hawk? I feel like Randolph Morris was a Hawk, and he was the.
Like, I know we've had Kentucky players, like we had Rajon Rondo or something, but I don't know if we drafted them per se. It's been
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of weird. I just feel like we haven't drafted one. Yeah. I don't know. Nothing rings a bell there. But you know who they love is Duke wings, like AJ Griffin,
love their Duke
Jalen
wings,
Johnson.
man.
But they can't do it this year because they're all coming back to Duke. Like, Duke's returning 4 starters, so there's no one they can draft there. No one available.
So I think it's going to be a very interesting summer. Do they keep that pick? That's a question. I really would not be surprised if they end up trading the pick. Because you might need it in order to flip one of these paid guards. Like, if you're going to trade DeAndre Hunter, you might need to include that first round pick or something, just to kind of butter the pan a little bit and maybe recoup some equitable value for DeAndre Hunter. I don't know if that's going to be what they're doing. There are a lot of different things that they can do with that pick. I'm not 100% sold that they're going to use it. But if they do, like I said, just get me a 3-point shooter. Get somebody who can be consistent from range and just add something to this lineup, a 3-and-D guy, someone who can develop into something bigger. And that's what this team sorely lacked this year. And hopefully they can get that from the draft this year.
Yeah. And we'll see who stays and who goes a part of this new staff with Igor.
It's going to be a fun offseason.
It is going to be fun because I'm very curious if they stand pat and Quinn saw enough that he's cool with this core and just really small tinkering and just be like, give me a full off season with this group and let me see what happens. Because I don't know. I think John Collins has to be gone, and I love John. He has to be the odd man out because you have to start with some more spacing. There has to be better shooting in the starters. They just have to play more shooter friendly offenses, and Jalen Johnson and Sadiq Bey have to be the rotation at the 4. Like, I just don't think you can do that. And then it's AJ Griffin and DeAndre Hunter rotating at the 3. You have to find whatever combination of those 4. They need to be playing almost all the 48 minutes when healthy at those 2 wing spots, because that's where your value is. That's where the versatility is. And I understand John was shooting better from 3 down the stretch there, but the spacing's you're never going to feel great about John Collins with Clint Capella opening these games offensively, especially with DeJounte Murray now in the fold, who's still just he's not scaring defenses with his 3. And it's just with the way the game is played now. I don't feel good about it. And I don't think Quinn is going to go basic. I don't want to say 3 non-shooters, but it's 1 non-shooter and 2 shooters that defenses are not terrified of closing out on, which look, it's just, that's a lot of pressure on Trey.
He's not going to sit on his hands this offseason, I'll tell you that much. He's not sitting on his hands. I think that it seems like there's a genuine love though too. I just think one of Onyeka Okongwu or Clint Capella, and I think it's going to be Clint. I really think it's going to be Clint because he offers less than Onyeka does. Just my opinion. Good player, and I love Clint.
Signing off on that. Trey's not signing off on the Clint departure.
So what? You've got Quinn Snyder. You just signed in here. Like, look, I think Trey, if he's bought into the process, he'll figure it out and he'll work it out with Quinn. I can't. There's a reason. I'm just so tired of players trying to think that they can. I'm not saying he's doing this either, and I'm not saying you're saying this either, but players who think that they can dictate or should dictate who the next head coach is or what roster moves are going to be or should be made. It's just such a detriment to that team. It rarely works, and the vast majority of the time, it blows up in their face. I mean, Kevin Durant begged and pleaded for the Nets to hire Steve Nash. It was a disaster. And that's just the most recent example of this. I mean, these guys get signed. They want to go play with their buddies or whatever. Screw that. You're here to win basketball games, and you have a president of basketball operations. Let him go do it. Let him do his job. And I think Onyeka Okongwu, he can't sit on the bench for this long. He needs more playing time, and he needs time, and he's the only person who can actually develop a 3. Clint Capella's not shooting a 3 anytime soon. We'll see. If you can shoot 2 threes a game, that's a win for me in Onyeka Okongwu. And if you do that, you can go sign a Cody Zeller or something to come off the bench. It doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be great. Go get a bench center. It's fine. Somebody who can shoot a 3 or at least some form of range. And you do that, and I think this team is going to be better.
What would you do if they trade for Rudy Gobert in a 3-teamer this summer?
That's not happening. Rudy Gobert is not coming to Atlanta. I'd be blown away. They would have to undersell on Rudy so badly. They're just not doing it.
I think they would do anything to get off that contract. If the Hawks really jumped at it, I think they would get off that contract yesterday.
Yeah, and I don't know if the general manager of the Wolves, they have to give it another year. Yeah. They have to give it another year. They have to justify it. They paid way too much money. They sent way too many assets over there to Utah for him.
Would you do Trey for Karl Anthony Towns?
No.
Okay.
No. Trey is should be a top 15, 20 player in the league. I don't see.
Can you say the same about Cat? Okay.
No. No. I'm not saying that. Cat also is injury prone. He's not going to have the longevity of Trey, and Trey's also 24 years old. So, no, I'm not doing that.
What is Cat?
Trey is a great. What?
What is Cat? Cat's got to be.
Cat's like 28, around I think. He's like 28.
No way. I would say 26. There's
27. I'd say. That's my gamble. 27.
He just turned 27. Okay.
He's older than Trey, but he's also been injury prone. He misses large chunks of the year. Guaranteed to miss 40 games, basically. And I'm not doing that. I don't need that. But like DeJounte Murray, are we still sold that DeJounte Murray is going to be here in an Atlanta uniform next year? I'm not. I'm not completely sold that's going to be the case. Do I think one of Clint Capella or Onyeka Okongwu is going to be gone. Yes, I think one of them will be gone. DeAndre Hunter, I think, will be here. I think Trae Young will be here. Bogey Bogdanovic might be here. I would assume he's going to be here just because of the. I think
Bogey better be here, man.
I think there's an extension issue with him, so it's like I think it would have to be a deadline move. I don't think they can move him this offseason just because maybe that's just in my head. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of those contracts, if you sign an extension, you have to be on the roster, I think, for the next couple of months or something.
Yeah, it's like the end of December or something. Yeah, I think it's like December. Yeah, something like that.
So I think that
we'll see.
A lot of these guys could be moved. John Collins is another guy who I think is probably the most likely to be moved. We'll see.
We've said that for years, and he's still somehow the man sticks around.
And I'm glad. I'm happy for it. I love John. I love cheering for John. He's one of those guys I'd buy his jersey and wear it. We talked about Marcell Ozuna earlier. He's the antithesis of Marcell Ozuna.
Same number.
Oh, that's ironic. That's some irony. How about that? Good eye. I didn't even think about that. He's literally the antithesis of Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah. Garrett Chapman, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at 24/7 Sports? It doesn't look like Haynes King's going to be starting for the Jackets this fall.
We'll see. I know it's between him and like Zach Pyron was the other guy, and Zach Gibson, and it's a three-horse race right now. I think it's going to go all the way through fall camp. So I'm not willing to necessarily say it's going to be a decided race. Definitely not right now. So I would be a little surprised if Haynes King doesn't get an opportunity to start at least 2 or 3 games this fall.
Okay. Night on the game. W Millennials show this weekend or no? Back on Monday. There you go.
Yes, sir. 6 to 10.
6 to 10. Dopey Millennials on Monday. That's a long show, man. Y'all just love it. 19 on the game. You love those 4-hour shows at 19 on the game, or 5 hours. What is Dukes and Bell? 5?
5 hours. They're 5 hours. It's probably the most incredible show, like in the country. 5 hours every single day.
You could offer me $17 million a year to do that. I wouldn't do it. No way.
$17 million to do a lot of things.
I would still say no. I would be so exhausted, and just my quality of life would be so diminished from having to do that for 5 hours straight. Like, I would do it if I could break it up. Like, no question, it would be easy. Like, no question at all. If I had to talk for 5 hours a day like that, I could break it up. 5 hours straight. I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of tea they're chugging.
Talking to.
That's true.
Like, I leave after a 3-hour show or something, and I'm exhausted. 4 hours, even if I'm doing it with a partner, I'm fried. Like,
when I listen to your W Millennials when I'm doing stuff around the house, sometimes it's funny to me because Garrett's for the good folks, go check it out if you haven't already, and it's on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. But it's funny because I host this show and Garrett's a guest, and I was on a show last night as a guest, and it's just funny when the roles are reversed because you sound so much like a radio host, and it's such a different Garrett than what we get on this show because he's just like the lead.
Well, it's so much more structured. I can. Yeah, there's pacing. The pacing is always completely different.
But you're a host, like you're guiding the ship. It's just more interesting.
Exactly.
I never see you guide the ship like that.
It's fun. We have a lot of fun with it. But it's we enjoy it. I mean, we have a lot of fun, and I mean, I love doing radio. Radio's a lot of fun. If you're not having fun with radio, I don't know what you're doing.
There you go. We'll leave it there. Garrett Chapman, always a pleasure from down there in Atlanta, Georgia. For me, beautiful. Up here in East Tennessee, Knoxville, Farragut, random park over here. Just look, commitment to the grind. No, the jogger left. I mean, that would have been a lot because he's been doing several laps, so I don't see him. So I think he's the jogger has called it for the day.
This is great. Great content. We love it.
I never thought I would do a pod at a park, but here we are. I didn't want to do a library because I thought I'd be too loud. I didn't want to do a coffee shop.
Yeah, library
I wouldn't be able to hear you.
Like a breakout room, maybe.
Maybe I'll just do that next time. Yeah,
you can find a breakout room or something.
Yeah, I could do it. All right, Garrett Chapman, always a pleasure. I'll talk to you next week.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.